Howdy y'all, thank you for joining us today for this playthrough of Marvel Champions the card game, and we're going to play through the Gambit Hero Pack. What this is a video series I do where I take the deck straight from the Hero Pack. I do not change it, I just sleeve it up, give it shuffles. I mean, if you watch my unboxing, you'll see all these cards were in there. I didn't change any of it. And I like to take it, and in the past I used to do it against Rhino and see how the deck would hold up. That way you can see if the deck is good on its own, to where you could just buy this and play with your friends without having to borrow some of their cards or just go with it. Plus, just kind of a fun thing for me to do to see how it goes. But since this is the X-Men, with the flavor, I decided to go with Sabretooth. So we're going to be going against Sabretooth and seeing if we can stop Sabretooth from pulling off his main scheme. So, in the Sabretooth deck, we have Sabretooth here. And since it is the X-Men, we also do Sabretooth and the Brotherhood. And normally I'd have Mystique in there also. That's another side thing we could do with where it'd be Sabretooth, Mystique, and the Brotherhood. But since the Gambit pack had a modular set in there, which was Exodus, I decided to replace Mystique with Exodus. So Exodus is in here, and I've already put the obligation for Gambit in here. I was seeing if there it is going. So we'll give this a few shuffles to put in there while I talk about the other stuff. So if this is your first time to join me, welcome. But what I like to do in these videos is, and even if it wasn't just the Hero Pack when I do them, is I like to teach the first round of everything like I'm teaching the game, so that you can follow along with the rest of the game and then just reveal some other stuff down the road also as I encounter it. But I like to teach it because I want more people to check this game out. I think it is a very underrated game. I think it is a very good game. I enjoy it a lot. Hence, made tons of videos about it. So I want people to be able to see how the game is played. And then there's so many times when there's like little bits that I have to always look up because just the rules don't really cover it. So sometimes in these playthroughs I run into those, and it might help you as you see it, like, oh, I saw something here, so I know it works this way or whatnot. So, alright, and I've already shuffled this a good 100 times, so we're just going to give it a few shuffles while I'm talking about the rest. So yeah, we're going to be doing that teach as we do it and see how it goes. So if this is your first time to join the game, this is basically a game where each person's going to play a character and an identity, and you're going to be going against a modular set of where you take a villain and their scheme and you get to basically put module in however you want to do it. Like we moduled in, like I said, Brotherhood with the Exodus, plus the standards are in there also, which you got to have in every deck anyways. So the way this is going to work is basically Sabretooth is trying to find the Senator and KO him, which is what we're going to find out when we go through all the setup here, just showing you what's going on. But that's basically what he's trying to do. He's trying to find the Senator and knock him out. We win if we can manage to knock Sabretooth out twice. He's got two stages here where he's going to get hit points, like his first stage. And this time I got my numbers right. If you watched my Rogue video, you know what I'm talking about. It was, he's going to get 13 hit points per player. When we knock him out of that, then he's going to get 15 hit points per player. So since we're playing solo, 13 and 15. We have to knock him out twice in order to win. We lose if he manages to do two things. One is pull off his main scheme, which you're going to see is knocking out the Senator, which this is unique to him. Or if he manages to knock out all the heroes, which with us is only one of us. So if he manages to do 9 damage to me and knock me out, he wins. So it's all about us knocking him out before and winning before he can manage to knock us out or knock out the Senator. All right. Let's go through the setup here real fast. So we start off with Sabretooth here, and it lets us know right off the bat the contents of Sabretooth is 1 and 2, 2 and 3 if you want to play in expert mode. But since we're doing a hero deck unchanged, we're just going to play in normal mode. And then it says Sabretooth and standard sets, those were mixed in there. And then 2 modular sets, Brotherhood, and it said Mystique, but like I said, we put Exodus. All right. Setup, put the Find the Senator side scheme into play. I'm going to go through all this just because it's easier, but it's attach Robert Kelly allied to it, did it. While attached to Find the Senator, Robert Kelly is in play, but under no player's control. Gotcha. Then we flip this over, and this is the scheme he's trying to pull off. And it says right here, normally there's a number here. This is how much threat that if it's on here, if he gets that much threat on here, he would win. We'll come back to that when we get to the other thing, if we get to the other thing. But that's normally what goes here. In this case, it's something different. This says how much threat we start with on here, which is 0, so no threat starts on here. And this is going to come into play during step 1 of the villain phase. This is how much threat gets added. All right. So now we see if there's anything else we need to do with the setup or anything, which really it shouldn't be. The setup should be all here, and this is just letting us know what's going on. But it's going to make sense here. So this is going to be adding threat, and then when that happens, it's got the star there. It lets us know the star up here, and it lets us know force response that after resolving step 1 of the villain phase, deal 2 damage to Robert Kelly. 3 damage if there's 6 threat here per player. Okay. While Robert Kelly's attached to Find the Senator, treat his text box as if it were blank. Okay. If Robert Kelly leaves play, the players lose the game. All right. That's everything set up for the scheme. Now let's find out what we were supposed to do this when we put this into play. It said, Robert Kelly cannot be healed by player card effects and cannot have upgrades attached. So I cannot heal him, and he cannot have upgrades attached to him. All right. When defeated, the first player detaches Robert Kelly from this scheme and takes control of him. Advance the main scheme to A, flip this card and place it next to the main scheme. So what that is saying, when defeated, it means when I defeat this scheme. This scheme is going to come into play. It's going to come into play with 5 threat on it per player, which I'll put that on in a second. And if I remove all that threat, then what we do the when defeated, because we defeated that side scheme, which is the first player detaches Robert Kelly. So I'll take control of Robert Kelly, because I'm the only player. We'll go to 2A. We're in 1A and 1B, so we'll go to 2A. We'll go to his next part of his scheme and see what that's all about. And then we flip this card and place it next to the main scheme. All right, so we'll do all that when that happens. So Robert Kelly's going to come into play. We attach to this. What this symbol means, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about it right now, is it's called the crisis icon. What this symbol means is there will be threat that's added to this main scheme, and there's ways for us to remove that threat off the scheme. We cannot do that as long as this is in play. We must get rid of this, so we have to get rid of this side scheme before we can do anything to this main scheme. All right, so we put that into play. It gets 5 threat on it per player. So we're going to put 5 of these yellow threat crystals on there per player. Let's not cover up the art. We know. This is the crisis icon showing. There we go. All right, so we need to get, we got to get rid of all this to find the Senator. Let's go find that Senator. And I guess I can talk about this too. So what it is, he's got 9 hit points. And remember, it doesn't matter what's in here. We'll go over that later if we get a chance. Because remember, this is all blank. It's just he has 9 hit points. So that's what's going to be happening is Sabretooth is going to be doing damage. And if he manages to KO Robert Kelly, remember, Kelly will lead play then, and we lose. Let's go to our setup now. First off, we always start an alter ego form. And I did not go over this in the unboxing. I realized during the Rogue video, I forgot to talk about their hand sizes. With Gambit here, He gets a hand size of 6 in alter ego form, which is normal, and a hand size of 5 when he's in hero form, which is normal. But what isn't normal for him is his hit points. His max hit points are 9. That's 1 less than normal. Normally 9, I mean, it's normally 10, but 9 usually means they got a pretty good abilities and stuff like that. So we're going to see how Remy LeBeau does here. He doesn't have any setup here. We are the first player. We are the only player, so we're going to give ourselves the first player marker. And now we just draw up to our hand size, which is 6. We have our 9 hit points. So let's draw up to our hand size of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, we have our setup. We get to begin the game. Let's see if we can manage to knock Sabretooth out before he pulls off his scheme or knocks us out. It always starts with the player phase. And what a player phase consists of is each player is going to take turns doing all the actions they want to do during their turn. And stuff they want to do during their turn and whatnot. Until each player has gone and finished out their turns, and then that finishes out the hero phase, and then we go into the villain phase. After we do all the stuff for the villain phase, that's the end of a round, and then we rinse and repeat and start with the hero phase again. So the hero phase starts. We are the only player, so we just got to go through the hero phase once. It's going to be doing all of our actions. There are 4 different actions you can do during your turn. Or I should say actions. There are 4 different things you can do during your turn. So one of the things you can do on your turn is you can play a card from your hand. If you'll look, cards have a cost in the upper left corner of how much it costs to play that card and put it into play, or just play that card. All right? In order to get the resources to pay for those cards, if you look at the bottom of every card, they have some resource boxes and icons. Those icons can be used, basically you discard the card to gain those resources to pay for the cost of the card you want to play. So I want to put the Thieves Guild into play. It costs 1. So I'm going to discard this card to get the 1 resource. And that lets me put the Thieves Guild into play because I paid the 1 resource. What Thieves Guild is, it is a support. So a support is something that just goes into play, and it's something you can kind of just use. Because as you can see here, it has a response action here. It says alter ego response. So it means I have to be in alter ego form, and it's in a response to something. All right, well, what's the response? That after I resolve my Thief Extraordinaire ability, I exhaust the Thieves Guild. Well, they're talking about this. I have an action here that's called Thief Extraordinaire. So it's saying that if I'm in alter ego form, which is the only way I could do this action anyways, as a response, I can exhaust this. And what does it do? It lets me remove 1 threat from a scheme. And if that was the last threat I removed from the scheme, then I get to draw a card. Okay, seems good. I really think looking at Gambit, he's going to be more about getting rid of a bunch of side schemes. So if it's one of these games where I get a bunch of side schemes out, he's going to be really good at that, I think. As far as the main scheme, I mean, this still can do some stuff, but... Well, anyways. Alright, so we put the Thieves Guild into play. That was one of the things you could do, is play cards. Alright. Next, another thing you can do is any cards that have an action on them, whether it be from your hand or out in play, you can activate those actions. For example, I have Remy LeBeau here, Thief Extraordinaire, as an action. Thwart, I can exhaust Remy LeBeau and look at the top 2 cards of the encounter deck. Discard one of those cards. Remove threat from a scheme equal to the number of boost icons on that card. This is pretty good because what this normally when you're in alter ego form, you can't really do much to affect the scheme or the bad guys, I guess. There's a few that can. This also lets you cycle through their encounter deck, which is going to speed up the game, but it's going to let you get rid of some of these nasty cards. And that's what's going to make sense here, because we're about to do it. We're going to, as an action, exhaust Remy LeBeau. It said, all right, exhaust him, so we turn him to the side. We look at the top 2 cards of the encounter deck and discard one of those cards. So we're going to go look at the top 2 cards from the encounter deck. Oh my goodness, I can pick up 1, but for some reason it won't let me pick up 2. There we go. All right, we're going to discard one of these. So we're going to discard one of these. And if you've played before, you know we don't really care what cards are getting discarded, really, for the most part. I mean, there may be some stuff we want to make sure is in the discard pile. But because we also know that the first, whatever card we put back is going to be a boost card for this villain, which will make sense when we get to the villain phase. But for our ability right now, we kind of want to choose one. It said we want to look at these boost icons because whichever one of these cards we discard, we get to get rid of a threat off of a scheme for each of. So like, for instance, we're going to choose this one. So if I choose this one, it says discard 1. It didn't say what to do with the other one. It means it goes back on top because we just look at them. So we look at this one. We're going to discard it. And it said, because if you look here, it said we're going to discard that card and then remove threat from a scheme equal to the number of boost icons on that card. So we're discarding this. There's those icons. So we're going to discard 3 threat from a scheme. So there's no threat on this scheme, but remember we couldn't do this one anyways because the crisis icon's in play. So we're going to remove 3 threat from this scheme. So we just got to get rid of that last 2 to find the senator. Alright, so we did all that action, but remember we have an alter ego response support here, which alter ego response, the response was after we resolve our Thief Extraordinaire ability. Oh, our Thief Extraordinaire ability, we just did that. Remove 1 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last threat from that scheme, draw 1 card. So we're going to exhaust the Thieves Guild to remove 1 more threat from a scheme. We choose that one. But there's still threat on there, so we don't get to draw a card. Alright. Another thing you could do on your turn, because I told you there was 4, we've gone through 2, play cards and do actions. Another thing you can do on your turn is once per hero phase, during your turn, you can switch and change forms. And what that means is you can change forms from alter ego to hero or from hero to alter ego, vice versa. So I'm going to do that right now. We're going to change forms from alter ego to hero form. But we're still exhausted. And all that does, it's going to change your basic abilities here, which you're going to get to that. That's the 4th thing, basically. And then it's also going to give you some new abilities, which remember, there's actions and stuff. We got new actions here. So that's basically what we did, is we switched to our hero form. And then now, we're not going to go to this other action thing. We're going to talk about this one. We're going to do this action. This action is charge the card. As an action, we can place 1 charge counter here. Limit once per round. So it means we can only do this action once per round. We're going to use these pinkish counters because of and I know they blend in real well, but we're going to put them down here. We're going to use these pinkish counters just because it kind of goes along with his. And I don't want to use red because I use those for damage. I'm going to go ahead and stop now and talk real fast about these things because I'm not going to be able to do it, but I want to be able to teach it in the first round. The fourth thing you could do is called a basic ability. You can basically do one of these basic abilities along the side of your card. One of those four, there's four of them. There's thwart, attack, defense, and recovery. One of the ones you can do during your turn is you can thwart, which means if you want, you can exhaust Gambit and thwart for a scheme for whatever number is in that box. So that would be just like what I did with earlier. I thwarted and took threat off the scheme. But in this case, I could exhaust him to get rid of one threat off of a scheme. Or I can attack, and that means I can exhaust him and attack a bad guy for that much damage that's in there. Or if I have an attack incoming to me, I can exhaust Gambit to defend an attack by that number, which means it reduces the attack damage by the number that is in defense. And we're going to talk about this other one since I said there's four of them. It's called recovery. If I was in alter ego form, I could exhaust Remy LeBeau to recover this number of hit points up to my max. I'm already at my max, so I wouldn't do it. Plus also I'm not in alter ego form, so I cannot do that. Also, I cannot do any of these because I'm already exhausted, but I thought I would teach that. That way, one of the other things I'm about to do would make a little bit more sense. So that's the four things you can do on your turn. You're just going to keep doing those things till you don't want to do actions anymore or cannot do actions anymore. Or I keep calling them actions, but just until you don't want to do one of those things anymore. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to play this rogue card in the play. It costs 4 resources in order to do that. But it also says here, on rogue, I can reduce the cost to play rogue by 1 for each charge counter that is on my identity. So really, it only costs me 3. I'm going to play this molecular acceleration as a resource to pay for this. It has a hero interrupt. It says, as an interrupt, when I spin this card, I get to place a charge counter on Gambit. So, I'm going to put a charge counter on Gambit. Now remember, Rogue is 1 less for every charge counter that is on Gambit. Alright, so this makes it to where this card, which notice it does have 2 on there instead of 1. So that makes it to where this can be paid for. And I look at that as this is the way it would work. It would not have to be 3 because, and I may be wrong on this, but I'm just going to go through my brain and the way it looks at it. Because interrupt looks at it's predicting you're about to do this. So it's seeing, hey, you want to play this card. You need this many resources. I'm spending these resources, so I'm interrupting spending those resources to throw a charge counter on here, which is going to make this cheaper. So that's just the way I look at it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that pays for Rogue. So I get to bring Rogue into play. Rogue is an ally. She gets 3 hit points. And you'll notice she has these basic abilities just like I do. Except she does not have a defense, and we'll get to that. Well, let's make sure we did everything on her card. Because on her card it says, reduce the cost to play Rogue by 1 for each charge counter on your identity. Okay. And then she also has toughness. What toughness means is I get to put this toughness card on her. And what that does is it says the next time Rogue would take any damage, instead of taking damage, this card goes away and she doesn't take the damage. Basically, she discard this card instead. So she gets a toughness, and I'll put on her hit points so I remember. And then now she's in play, and she stays here, and I can do basically the same stuff I was able to do with Gambit, because notice she has those basic abilities. So if I want to thwart with her, I can exhaust her to thwart for 2. If I want to attack with her, I can attack for 2. But notice, Rogue has these little stars underneath the ability, whereas Gambit did not. Those are called consequence stars. So if she does whatever ability she does, I have to, as a consequence, take damage, or she does. She will have to take consequence damage for doing what she does. Now, granted, I could attack with her, and she'll do 2 damage to Sabretooth, but then she'll take the consequence damage, and the toughness will absorb it, and she'll be fine, and she still has 3 hit points. Or I could even go find the Senator. I could thwart with her, and that'd be enough to finish finding the Senator, but I'm going to hold off on her. And notice she doesn't have a defense, and it's because if something is attacking, I can defend with her, and she will still exhaust, but she doesn't get to reduce the damage. She just has to take it all to the face. Alright. With that, I have no other actions I want to do. I'm going to go to the end of the hero phase. Once all the heroes have gone, you go to the end of the hero phase. The first step of the hero phase is simultaneously all the heroes will discard cards that they don't want in their hand anymore. In this case, I want to hold on to both of these cards, so I'm going to hold on to these. So I have 2 cards in hand. And then now you draw up to whatever your hand size is. Which, if you remember, when I was in alter ego form, my hand size was 6. Well, now it is 5. So that means I draw up to my hand size of 5. I have 2 in hand, so that means I get to draw 3 cards. So I have 2 in hand, 2, 3, 4, 5. These cards go to my hand. And then after each hero has after a hero is drawn up, they ready and unexhaust all the cards in their play area. And that is the end of the hero phase. Next, we go into the villain phase. And the villain phase is, first, we go to the acceleration. They're going to accelerate their scheme by whatever number it shows in here. Here it says +1 acceleration of threat per player. So that means it puts 1 threat on there per player. And then it has a little star. So we got to go see what that star is about. It says forced response star, forced response. After resolving step 1 of the villain phase, which this was step 1, deal 2 damage to Robert Kelly. 3 if there were 6 threat here. Okay, well, there's not 6 threats, so we have to do 2 damage to Robert Kelly. So 2 damage to Robert Kelly. So now he's only got 7 hit points left. And that's the end of step 1. Next, step 2 is the bad guys, the villain and the bad guys are going to activate against each player. The villain will activate against each player, and then all the minions that are engaged with that player will activate also. So first, Sabretooth is going to activate, and it's going to matter what form I'm in as to how he activates. If I'm in alter ego form, then the villain and the bad guys on me, the minions on me, will scheme and add more threat to this main scheme. If I'm in hero form, they're going to attack me, and that's when I would have to choose if I want to defend. In this case, I am in hero form, so he is going to attack me. So I have to choose now if I want to defend. I'm going to have Rogue defend, and the reason is I could have Gambit defend, and he would defend for 3. But remember, she has this toughness, so that means she can take all that hit, and then this is going to go away. But it also opens her up because I didn't want to waste that toughness to have her attack or thwart. So she's going to defend, so she exhausts. Sabretooth's going to attack. He's doing 2 damage. Plus, since he's the villain, he gets what's called a boost card. He will add the top card from the deck to his boost pile, because he could have some others. Right now he doesn't. It's the only one that's in his boost pile. And then we're going to reveal, but we're going to ignore everything on the card, and we're only going to look at this bottom part and look at those boost icons again, just like we did with Gambit's ability. But in this case, we're looking to see how many boost icons are there. Whatever number of boost icons are there, which we knew it was 2 because we already saw this card, is how much extra damage or scheming is, extra damage or threat is going to be added depending on what he's doing. In this case, he's attacking, so he's going to do 2 plus 2. So he's doing 4 damage. Rogue defended, so Rogue has to take the damage, but remember, she has toughness, so it says the next time she would take damage, remove this instead. So it gets rid of the toughness. So she absorbed all that attack. And then now all the minions that were engaged with me would do the same thing that the villain did, which would be attack. It's all simultaneous, but you want to remember to do it in that order. All right, next is the encounter step. So you would deal each person 1 encounter card into their encounter pile, which I have none, so this is the only card in my encounter pile. There could be ways, just like with the boost, that you could have more cards in your encounter pile. And then after everyone's dealt, each player is dealt 1 encounter card, you're going to deal with the encounter card. In this case, you do have to go through the whole card. And in this case, it is a minion. It is Blob. So Blob is going to engage with me because nothing can stop the Blob. What engage means is normally when a minion comes into play, they're going to engage with a hero, and they're going to be over here to where each minion is engaged with that player, and that player has to deal with that minion. And especially in this case with the Blob, because the Blob has an ability called Guard. Guard means I cannot do anything to Sabretooth until the Blob is taken out. Okay, so that means we're going to have to take out the Blob. Now he'll scheme and attack also, but he doesn't get the boost card like Sabretooth does. And we're already past the minion, the bad guy activation. So he's just coming out right now is all he's doing. He does have a forced response here though when he attacks. And it says, after Blob attacks and damages a character, stun that character. That's not good. We'll get the stun, I'm sure. But we want to take care of that. So we need to take care of the Blob on this turn. But that was the encounter cards. And he has 6 hit points. Ugh. Yep. Nothing moves the Blob. After that, the last part of the villain phase, after everyone's done their encounter cards, is to pass the first player marker to the next player. And then that's the end of the round. Other than that, after that, we just go back and forth until one of the in-game conditions is met. Sabretooth's been knocked out twice. Or Sabretooth's pulled off his scheme, resulting in loss. Or Sabretooth's knocked out all the bad guys have knocked out all the heroes, which results in a loss. So, let's get at it. I was really wanting to play this card, but instead, what I want to do this Stealth Strike, which I didn't recognize in the unboxing. This is a reprint with a new art, but it's still cool. It is one of the cards I do play with. So it costs 3 to do this Stealth Strike. So we got to pay 3. Like I said, I wanted to hold on to that Professor X, but nah, we're just going to have to use him for now. So it costs 3, and notice this was another card I had that had 2 resources on it. So there's my 3. Now we get to play this card, which is an event. An event is basically a one-time play card. This is an action. Remember, we talked about actions. You can just do actions. This is one of them. So I have this action event. It is a hero action, so I have to be in hero form to do this, just like I'd be an alter ego to do that one. But, hero action attack, I deal 4 damage to an enemy. If that enemy is defeated by this attack, remove 2 threat from a scheme. So I'm going to do 4 damage, and I'm going to target the Blob. But I do have an interrupt over here. On Gambit, he does have an interrupt I have not used yet, which says, when I play an attack event, remove up to 3 charge counters from here. That event deals +1 damage for each counter removed. This is an attack event. I have 2 counters on there. I can remove up to 3, so I'm going to remove the 2 counters off of there. So now I'm doing 6 damage because it's +1 per counter. So I'm doing 6 damage to the blob. Well, what do you know? He's got 6 hit points, so that's enough to KO the blob. Obviously, something can move the blob. I have to go back, and it really isn't a big thing, but I always forget, and I didn't do the one thing that I needed to remember. Technically, the blob shouldn't have been out, but we've already dealt through stuff, so we can't really do with this. And the reason is, after Sabretooth attacked, he had this forced response here. And normally what I'll do is, so that I remember it, is when I'm going and dealing with stuff, I'll put this card up here to remember, and I just forgot to do that. But what his forced response is, after he activates, he discards the top card, and however many boost icons are down there, he regenerates for that much. So technically the blob was supposed to be gone, but I can't take back a bunch of actions. I'm not going to make it confusing. So we're going to just discard this one. I don't know what it is, but probably would have been something easier to where I could have saved that Professor X like I wanted to. But the reason we have to make sure we're doing this, not only because even if he's full health, he doesn't need to heal, is because if this deck runs out, it accelerates this scheme faster. So we have to make sure we're going through this every time he activates. So anyways, we're activating, so he would have healed for 0 anyways. But in the reverse, it would have been the other way around. He would have healed for 2, which would have been 0. But this would have been on Sabretooth, which would have gave him Stalwart, where he couldn't be stunned or confused, which probably something I would have tried to do. But I don't really have anything that would have stunned or confused. So even if I would have done this right, I don't know if I would have cared, because this is also an attachment that would have went on him. But I could have got rid of it by paying this. But I don't think I would have done anything that's going to stun or confuse him that I can see right now. So I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference, but we just got to do it and go through it, especially since I already skipped a step. Sorry about that. That was an attack event. And remember, Stealth Strike said if it knocked out that minion, then I get to remove 2 threat from a scheme. So I get to remove 2 threat from a scheme. I cannot target this scheme because crisis, so we're going to remove that last threat. So we found the Senator. Let's go through this long. I usually like to let that stay in play a little bit longer, let the Senator just take a little bit more damage, but we're heroes. We wouldn't let the Senator just take more damage, even though he's been so mean to us mutants. So we find the Senator. So let's go see what we need to do. Here we go. When defeated, the first player detaches Robert Kelly from this scheme and takes control of him. So I take control of him. And I didn't talk about this when we do allies. And it really doesn't make a huge difference here because you're going to see why here in a second. But normally when you have allies, you can only have 3 allies in play. Which came up real key if you go back and look at the Rogue playthrough. Because I forgot about that and had to do some tricky stuff in there. But anyways, so I gain him. He's Robert Kelly. He is an ally. So there we go. It said gain him. Advance to main scheme 2A. So we're going to get rid of this scheme and go to 2A. And I'm going to go through all that here in a second. Then it says flip this card and place it next to the main scheme. So let's go ahead and see what 2A does. So 2A is the injured Senator. Sabretooth has wounded Senator Kelly and continues to hound him. When revealed, deal each player a face-down encounter card. So I have to deal myself an encounter card. So remember, I said there could be multiple cards in your encounter deck. So that means when we get to the next villain phase and that encounter step, I'm going to have 2 encounters I'm going to have to deal with. But that happened because of that. So we flip this over. And here's the scheme. There's that number I was talking about earlier. So it's saying if there's ever 9 threat here per player, he pulls off this scheme. Well, let's see what happens when he pulls off this scheme. Well, first off, 0 threat starts out on here. Okay. It's going to accelerate 1 per player, just like the other one did. Okay. Get Robert Kelly to safety before Sabretooth finishes the job. When completed, so that means when completed, saying when he gets 9 threat on here, defeat Robert Kelly. So same thing he was trying to do before. And it says the same thing. If Robert Kelly leaves play, the player loses the game. So it doesn't change anything, except now we do have to worry about threat being on here a lot more than we were before. All right, the last step said to flip this and put it next to the thing. Let's see what this is all about. It says, Robert Kelly cannot be healed by player card effects and cannot have upgrades attached. So the same thing before. I can't heal him or attach stuff on him to beef him up. As a hero response, after my hero defends against an attack from Sabretooth, I spend 2 resources of any type, and I can ready my hero. Only the player who has control of Robert Kelly can trigger this ability. Okay, so if I defend against Sabretooth, I can pay 2 resources to ready. Alright, I might want to do that, but here's why I want to do that. Alright, Robert Kelly here. Remember, this was all blank. Well, let's see what Robert Kelly says now. It says, the first player controls Robert Kelly. So it's saying, just like the player marker goes around, Robert Kelly goes around also. Gets passed around to the first player. He does not count against your ally limit. So he doesn't count against that 3 ally limit. And he cannot have player cards attached. We already kind of figured that. Alright. As a forced interrupt, when an enemy resolves an undefended attack against you, deal that damage to Robert Kelly. So if one of the bad guys attacks me and I don't put a defense up, Robert Kelly takes it to the face. And remember, that knocks him out, which makes Sabretooth still win. So we now have to, first we had to find the Senator. Now, just like that card said, we have to protect the Senator. Alright, let's see if we can do it. So all that was off of that stealth strike. I'm just going to look at something on the other side real fast. I was basically checking to see if he loses the charge counters when he switches forms, but he doesn't. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I haven't activated yet, I'm going to activate that action that says charge the card. As an action, I can place 1 charge counter on here. Limit once per round. Let's do that. We did it. Alright. I'm also going to exhaust Gambit. And I'm going to attack Sabretooth for 2. Now Sabretooth don't get any defense. So he just takes 2. And notice I couldn't have thrown this charge counter in there because it wasn't an attack event. This was just my basic attack. This was just me punching or kicking him or something. And notice the big deal about when you defend, and you saw it with Rogue here now, is remember you don't unexhaust until the end of your turn. So now since I defended with Rogue, she couldn't do anything on her turn. And it'd be the same thing with Gambit. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity. Well, actually, I was going to switch to Ultra Ego form so that I could draw more cards. But there's a reason why I'm not. I'm going to stay in my hero form. So actually, we're just going to go on to the end of my hero phase. I want to keep both of these cards in hand. So we got to draw up to our hand size of 5. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Ready all of our cards. Go to the top of the villain phase and accelerate the scheme by 1 per player. So now he has 1 to the 9 he needs. Next, bad guys are going to activate. Since I'm in hero form, I have to choose to defend. Or if I don't defend, I meant to say, sorry. I already talked about that. If I choose not to defend, then all of it just goes to Robert Kelly. We want to keep him as healthy as possible. So we're going to defend. Plus we're heroes. We wouldn't let this. We'll stick up for the Senator even though he won't stick up for us. So we're going to defend, which means we get to reduce the damage by 3. So Sabretooth is doing 2. He gets dealt a boost card. Now we look and see. He adds 1. So he's doing 3 damage. I defended for 3. So 3 minus 3 is 0. So I take no damage. And I almost forgot again. Sabretooth is now going to regenerate. It's a forced response anytime he activates. He heals for 1. We only look for those icons. Now in this case, normally if it's a boost, it will do this little star icon also. But in this case, it wasn't looking, this wasn't a boost. This was just checking to see how much he regenerates for. So this was a good card to hit with that, because now it does that. So he regenerates for 1. No minions in play, so now this is also the end of the attack. This is where I can spend 2 resources to ready my character if I wish to. I will not. So next, we deal ourselves an encounter card. So now we have 2 encounters we're going to have to deal with. Maybe I should have readied myself. I guess we will see. All right, let's see what the first one is. In this case, we have to go through the whole card, just like I said. So we have an Acolyte Frenzy here, which I really am looking forward to doing Magneto with the Acolytes and Exodus and see how that all goes down. But either way, Acolyte Frenzy Treachery. When revealed, each Acolyte minion engaged with you activates against you. If you are not engaged with any Acolyte minion, this card gains Surge. So if I haven't gone through Surge yet, which I don't think I have, Surge means it's making sure something happens. In this case, I have no Acolyte minions on me. So there's none engaged with me. So this card gains Surge, which means we draw another card and do it, which is Psionic Shield. Attached to a minion. Otherwise, Psionic Shield gains Surge. There are no minions attached, so this card gains Surge. Caught Off Guard. When revealed, discard an upgrade or support you control. If no cards were discarded this way, this card gains Surge. Well, I don't have a choice. If I have any support or upgrades, I have to get rid of them. I do have a support. I have the Thieves Guild. So unfortunately, Caught Off Guard is going to get rid of the Thieves Guild. But now it doesn't gain Surge because it did get rid of something. So we finally got rid of that first one. Now let's see what our next one is. We have a minion. So, just like what happened with the Blob, Toad is going to engage with us. And like I said, I just keep him up here. Toad is a 2 schemer, 2 attack. Let's see what's up with Toad here. He only has 3 hit points. As a forced response, after Toad attacks and damages a character you control, you have to discard 1 random card from hand. No, sir. Yep, we're going to take care of him also. Well, that was all the encounters. So we're back to the beginning of my turn. Our first action is going to be charge the card. So we're going to do the action where it lets us add a charge counter to Gambit. I was wanting to hold on to this, but I want to do charged card, which basically costs 2. I was wanting to hold on to this, especially since I already used 1, so that means there's only 1 left in my deck, but probably won't take the game that long, hopefully. Alright, so we're going to do this attack event. It is deal 4 damage to an enemy. For this attack, if Gambit's throw the card ability removed at least 1 counter, this attack gains range, 2 counters, it gains piercing, 3 counters, it gains overkill. So what that's saying is, if I spend 1 more, which is going to make it do 5 damage, it'll get range, which means it ignores this ability called Retaliate, which makes them do damage back to me. They don't have that, so I don't care about that. If I spend 2, it gains Piercing, which would mean if they had that toughness like Rogue had on it, it would remove the toughness first, then do the damage, and I would do 6 damage. Really, I was hoping there was a way for me to get 1 more charge counter on here, because then the 3 counters would have been overkill. So it would have made it to where it was 7 damage because of the counters. And then I would have been able to do 3 to Toad, and overkill says any extra damage goes over to the villain. So I would have liked to have been able to do all that. It's kind of a waste though. So we're just going to use it to KO Toad, because it's going to do 4 damage to Toad. And I thought about just not even doing it at all. That way I can keep that card, but I don't want to discard a random card. We're going to exhaust Rogue to attack Sabretooth for 2 damage. take it into 10. And because she attacked, she has to take 1 consequence star. Next, I want to bring out the X Mansion. It costs 2. I have this card in my hand for 2. It lets me bring out this X Mansion, which is another support, just like the Thieves Guild. This one is a location. It is an alter ego action, so once just like the other one, I have to be an alter ego form. But this is an action, not a response, so that means it's an action I have to activate. But I can exhaust the X Mansion to heal 1 damage from a mutant or X-Men character. Any player whose alter ego has the mutant trait may trigger this ability. So it means I have to be an alter ego form, but also I have to be a mutant. But the cool thing is if you're playing with other people, if they are an alter ego form and a mutant, they can activate this. Even though it's, I mean, they got to ask for your permission, but they can do it. So really I'm just doing that because, yeah, my next step's going to be, I'm going to switch into, man, I keep wanting to switch into alter ego form. You know what? I am. I'm going to switch to alter ego form. And I'm just double checking to make sure I'm right. It doesn't say anything about losing the charge counters. And actually, I thought I was limited to only having 3 charge counters on a unit. It doesn't say that. So, cool. I don't know why my brain was thinking that. I guess because I'm just used to some other characters that don't like that. Alright, well, I'm in alter ego form, but I'm still exhausted. But now I can activate this alter ego action because I do have the mutant and I'm in alter ego form. So alter ego action, I'm going to activate this to heal 1 damage from a mutant or X-Men character. Well, Rogue is an X-Men character, so there we go. Removes that damage from her. And that's the end of my turn. So we're going to go to, I have no cards in hand, so nothing to discard. So we're going to draw up to our hand size of 6 now because we're in alter ego form. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ready all of our characters, all of our stuff. Accelerate the scheme by 1. The minions and the bad guys are going to activate. In this case, I am in alter ego form. So they are going to scheme for 1. They get a boost card. It's still scheming for 1 plus 0. But this is a boost and this is boosting. So what is the boost? If this attack defeats an ally, place 2 threat on the main scheme. This is not an attack, so it actually does nothing. But it is still going to scheme for 1 plus 0, so 1. He's still activated, so Sabretooth is now going to regenerate for 2. Oh my goodness. I need to find a way to do some damage. Well, mostly I've had to do damage to the minions. All the bad guys are gone. Now we go to the encounter phase. Oh, we got my obligation. Lovely. This obligation. So if you draw this, that means it has to go straight to the person. So if there were other players and this was their encounter card, it would go to me no matter what. It is an alter ego. This is an obligation. This goes into play on me. As an alter ego action, I can exhaust Remy LeBeau and spend a energy resource to remove guild business from the game. So I don't have to get rid of this, but if I don't, this symbol means every time when I'm dealt an encounter card, or during the encounter step, when I'm dealt an encounter card during the encounter step, I get dealt an additional one. We really don't want to do 2 threats. We gotta go deal with some guild business. Alright, back to the beginning of my turn. Well, Rogue can still do her stuff. She's not limited like I am. She doesn't say she has to be in hero form. So Rogue is going to go ahead and fly in and hit Sabretooth for 2. So, hit Sabretooth for 2. She takes a consequence damage. As Remy LeBeau, I'm going to activate the X Mansion to heal an X-Men character for 1. I mean, it seems really cheesy, but it's really not. I mean, I'm only doing 2 damage. I got to find a way to do a lot more damage. All right, well, I want to take care of this. We got to go take care of guild business here. It is an alter ego action, so I'm going to do it. It says exhaust Remy LeBeau. So I have to exhaust Remy LeBeau, which means he's not going to be able to do anything else. And I have to spend a energy resource. So there's my energy resource. And if I'm saying that wrong, I'm pretty sure it's energy. I always get that one and legendary mixed up. But I'm pretty sure it's energy. Energy resource. And then I get to remove guild business from the game. So this is removed from the game. Alright, we went and took care of that guild business. Next, I'm going to do that Creole Charmer. It costs 2. There's my 2. And this is an event, alter ego action, so I can only do it in alter ego form. I think I'm going to, yeah, this happened. I already talked about it. Like, I was looking forward to playing Rogue, but I think this is going to be the character I really want to play because I've been trying to do it with Captain America, and I've been doing it pretty successfully, but I've been trying to find a character I just want to be in alter ego form while playing the game majority of the time. And there's several characters that can do it. This one definitely can do it. So, alter ego action, thwart, remove 3 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last threat from that scheme, confuse the villain. Alright, so we're removing 3 threat from a scheme. Hey, look, there's 3 threat on that scheme. So we'll remove that threat. And it said, if it removes the last threat from that scheme, confuse the villain. So we're going to confuse the villain. And what confuse is, it's just like one of those, that toughness card, but instead it's a confused card. It says the next time that character would thwart or scheme, in this case, the Sabretooth is getting confused, so when he would go scheme, he discards this card instead of scheming. So, Sabretooth is confused. I'm going to put this on here so that I remember that. Actually, I think we're done with our turn again. God, Sabretooth's going to heal up so much. I just know it. And actually, I don't know why I didn't think about it. He's not going to regenerate because it says after he activates. Activation is scheme or attack is the way I look at it. So, since he's confused, the confused says the next time this character would scheme or thwart, discard this instead. So that means he wouldn't activate. That's not activating, in my opinion, because it means he did nothing. Because in the rule book, it says attacking and scheming is the activation. It's not activate now they see what they're doing. I mean, that's the way I worded it when I said it, but that's what it says in the rule book. Attacking and scheming is an activation. So he won't actually regenerate because I stayed in this form. So let's do that. Anyways, we're going to keep all 3 cards in hand. So we draw 3 more cards to fill our hand because we are in alter ego form. Ready all of our stuff. He's going to accelerate the scheme. This doesn't matter because he's not scheming. The scheme's always going to accelerate. So he still accelerates for the 1. Next, Sabretooth would activate, or bad guys would activate, but Sabretooth, since I'm in alter ego form, would scheme. He does not because he is confused, so it just gets rid of the confuse. And he doesn't get his regeneration because he didn't activate. And then there's no minions. So next we go to the encounter phase. And, oh, well, he is going to scheme. Here we go. Advanced treachery. When revealed, the villain schemes. So he is going to scheme now. For 1 plus, alright, it's got a boost. If this attack defeats an ally, place 2 threat on the main scheme. It is not an attack, so he just schemes for 1. But that is an activation, so he's going to regenerate for 2. Oy. Annoying. That's what he is. Annoying. Alright, we go back to the beginning of my turn. We're going to start it off. Rogue is going to attack for 2. She takes her consequence damage. Remy LeBeau is going to activate the X Mansion to heal that 1. All right, we're going to switch to my hero form. We're going to do the action, charge the card to get another charge counter. I want to play Royal Flush. Royal Flush says hero action attack, place 1 charge counter on Gambit. All right, well, let's pay for it first. There's my 3 to pay for that. All right, it says put a charge counter on Gambit. All right, we did that. Now, deal 0 damage to an enemy, deal 0 damage to an enemy, deal 0 damage to an enemy. Well, before that takes effect, as an interrupt, we're going to spend up to 3 charge counters off of here to add +1 damage for each counter removed. So we're going to move 3 counters from here, so that now this event does +3 damage. And the way I read that, because otherwise this would make no sense, that means it's going to do 3 damage to an enemy, deal 3 damage to an enemy, deal 3 damage to an enemy. So, here we go. We choose Sabretooth. We're going to deal 3 damage to him, then deal 3 damage to him, and then deal 3 damage to him. So he's going to take 9 damage, taking him to 1. We're going to exhaust Gambit to attack Sabretooth for 2, which is enough to knock him out of his stage 1, so he gets KO'd. So we come to here now. He's going to get 15 hit points per player. So 15 hit points. But he also gets toughness. And we already talked about that. That means the next time he takes damage, instead the toughness goes away. So we'll put that on there so I don't forget. And notice now he has 1 more scheme, but he keeps his same healing ability. With that, we're going to go to the end of my turn. I'm going to keep both cards in hand. So we're drawing up to 5. So I got 2, 3, 4, 5. Ready all of our cards. Go back to the villain step 1. Add 1 threat to the scheme. We are in hero form, so now that means when Sabretooth attacks, we're going to be a hero even though we don't need to. No, we're not. No, we're not. Yeah, we're just going to do it. Screw it. We're going to go ahead and defend. We're heroes, right? We're going to defend so that Robert Kelly doesn't take the damage to the face. So it's going to be attack 2, +1, 3 damage. -3 means I take no damage. But Sabretooth is going to regenerate for 2. He's at full, so regenerates for nothing. That deck's getting mighty low. And then now we're going to do ourselves the encounter card. We have to deal with the encounter card, which is Assault. Treachery. When revealed alter ego form, this card gains surge. When revealed hero form, the villain attacks you. So the villain's attacking again. This time, I cannot defend. I guess I could have paid the 2 resources to defend, but I did not. So, or to unexhaust, I did not. So that means if I don't defend with Rogue, Robert Kelly's going to take it in the face. I'm going to have, and I don't see anything that says I can't do this, so I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to have Robert Kelly defend. And the reason I'm doing that is because if I don't have Robert Kelly defend, that means Gambit's being attacked. So if something happens within the boost card where it says it's going to stun me, I would be stunned. Whereas if it's Robert Kelly, it'll stun Robert Kelly. I don't see anything that says I cannot defend with Robert Kelly. It just says I cannot attach cards to him. I cannot heal him. So, in my opinion, he is an ally. So he's going to defend and just take it in the face for 2 plus this boost. Yep, see, like that right there. You are stunned and confused. But see, that would be Robert Kelly who gets stunned and confused because he's the one that defended the attack. But he still has to take the 2 plus 0, so he still has to take the 2 damage. Like I said, I haven't seen anything that says I can't do that. All it says is Robert Kelly cannot be healed, Robert Kelly cannot have upgrades attached, and Robert Kelly, he does not count against your ally limit and cannot have player cards attached. Oh, I wonder if these are considered player cards, but still, even if they aren't, this means they can't be attached to him. It doesn't say he can't defend. It also says as a forced interrupt, when an enemy resolves an undefended attack against you, deal that damage to Robert Kelly. It's not an undefended attack. It's Robert Kelly defended. So, if I'm playing that wrong, whatever, he got a little bravery, jumped in front of that attack. And I'm actually going to take one thing back on this. And it's not really taking it back. Like, I still feel like I did that right. I feel like you can still defend with Robert Kelly. I haven't found anything that says you can't. But the card I was thinking of, I believe is in Rhino's deck or someone's deck, and it just says character dealt damage is stunned. In this case, it doesn't say that. In this case, it says you are stunned and confused. Yeah, so the card I was thinking of says if that character takes damage. This isn't. This is saying you are stunned and confused. So in this case, unfortunately, even though I planned on him to defend so he would take it, I think in this case, this does stun and confuse me. That's just the way I interpret the rules. Even though he would be targeting him, the frenzy targets me too. So, which is really going to mess up this next turn. So this might take a little bit longer than I thought it was going to take. Alright, so that was all from the encounter card. And Sabretooth activated, so he's going to regenerate again for 0, which he's at full anyway, so it doesn't matter. Well, actually, this wasn't a boost. I was about to say this boost, but it's not. This was checking for his regeneration. And then now we go to the beginning of my turn. And how do I get around this stun and confused he just threw on me? Well, first things first, we'll do the action that puts a charge counter on me, because I can do that still, even though I'm stunned and confused. This seems like a waste, but I want to play this card. It costs 2. There's the 2. You can see it's breaking and entering. It says here, play only if your identity has a spy or thief trait. I do have the thief trait. So, as an action, thwart, remove 3 threat from a scheme. And what I like about this card is it can be done in alter ego form. So I could have been in my alter ego form, which we're going to probably go to. Almost positive I'm going to go to. But the thing is, it doesn't remove any threat. Instead, that was a thwart, so it gets rid of my confusion. But I was going to discard those cards anyways. So, alright, we're going to have Rogue go ahead and attack Sabretooth for 2. Which is enough to get rid of the toughness because it absorbs the first hit. That is going to damage her because of consequence damage. Next, we're going to go into my alter ego form. I think you already see where this is going. We're going to activate the X Mansion to heal Rogue. And then we're going to go to my end of my turn. Which is, I'm going to keep both these cards in hand. So I'm going to draw up to 6. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Ready all of our cards. Go to the villain phase. Step 1. Accelerate the scheme by 1. Oh, I hope I didn't cost myself the game here. I didn't think about that. Let's hope he don't double scheme here, as that could cost me the game, because here we go. He's going to scheme for 2 and 0, so he just schemes for 2. Still not in the clear, because as you saw with the earlier, because there's 3 to 6, that's 9. He could play a card that has him scheme. And we haven't seen Shadows of the Past yet. Let's hope that don't happen. Either way, he activated, so he's going to heal. For 1, he's at full, so... And then we deal ourselves an encounter card. And we deal with the encounter card, which is Feral Rage. Sabretooth has worked himself into a frenzy in his hunt for Kelly. You need to draw his attention away from the Senator. It's going to start with 4 threat on it. It is a side scheme. And what a side scheme is it's a scheme that comes into play, well, as you saw, would like find the center. It's just basically going to make it harder. Like this has the crisis icon, so it means I cannot remove any of these from there as long as this is in play. But when it's defeated, Sabretooth attacks the player who defeated this scheme. Because that's the encounter. Putting 4 threat on there. We go to the beginning of my turn. We're going to have Rogue attack Sabretooth for 2. Taking him to 13. She takes a consequence damage. Rinse and repeat. We're going to exhaust as an alter ego action. Exhaust X-Mansion to remove the damage. We're going to switch to my hero form. We're going to use an action to do charge the card to place a charge counter on Gambit. We're going to exhaust Gambit and do the basic action attack, which gets canceled out because I'm stunned. We're going to do Royal Flush again. It costs 3 to pay for it. We're going to use these 3 to pay for it, but this is that one I played earlier where, as an interrupt, when I spin this card, I place 1 charge counter on Gambit. So he gets another charge counter on him. But that pays for the Royal Flush. As an interrupt, I'm going to spend 3, we done this earlier, to give this card +3 to its damage. So, hero action attack, place 1 charge counter on Gambit, did that, deal 3 damage to an enemy, then deal 3 damage to an enemy, then deal 3 damage to an enemy. So we're going to do 9 damage to Sabretooth, taking him to 4. And then we're going to play charged card, costs 2. There's my 2. And it says, as an interrupt, I'll go ahead and just discard this last one to give it +1 damage. It says deal 4 damage, so deal 5 damage to an enemy. For this attack, if Gambit's throw the card ability removed at least, my throw the card ability removed 1, this attack gains ranged, which would mean if he had Retaliate, I could ignore Retaliate, but it's enough to do 5 damage, which is enough to knock out Sabretooth. So I was going to do that anyways, just that stun and confuse kind of slowed me down. But, alright, with that, that was pretty fun. I do like him. I like the idea of being able to be a lot in alter ego form. I don't like that he only has 9 hit points. This was a little ridiculous doing this. Makes me want to build Gambit, kind of thinking still Justice, and pretty much keep the deck the same. I just want to look at some of the other Justice allies that are X-Men, that way I could do this thing again. But no, that was fun. And I mean, I went off on a thing on the Rogue video where I talked about how when I play people that are they come out together in a pair, I went through how normally I enjoy playing one more than I do the other. Usually the one that, well, of course that makes sense, but it's usually the one I did not plan on liking. And I go through there, if you want to watch on the Rogue video, I go through all those on who I enjoy playing more. But now that I played this one, I definitely have to say, yeah, it was the same in this one. Like, I enjoyed playing Rogue. It was cool. It really wasn't my play style, though. Maybe because I'm just not one that really messes with the traits and stuff like that. I did like how much damage she could do, so kind of want to build a rogue aggression, see what's up, which is weird because I normally, if you watch my videos, you know I don't like aggression, so don't really mess with aggression all that much. And actually, in truth, I felt like Gambit had a lot of ways to get rid of threats, so I don't know if I would go that. I might even do a Gambit aggression. But yeah, so yeah, I definitely, this was one of those times where it came out as a pair, and the one I wasn't thinking I would like the most, or the one that I wasn't looking forward to, because Gambit isn't one of my favorite characters. Yeah, I know, I said it. I do want to build with him more than I do Rogue. And then there was one combination I didn't talk about in the other one where it was the same way. I was looking forward to Adam Warlock. I thought it would just be kind of this fun, neat, cool thing to build. And instead it ended up being, I enjoyed Spectrum more. Spectrum was more my play style, more of the back and forth and doing stuff with it. So when I'm saying that they go together like that, it's usually there's one that I get done playing and I instantly want to build. Like right now, I want to sit and I want to build something with Gambit. Rogue, I do want to play her. I like the character, but it could be anything. And I'll enjoy the character because it's the character. Same with Colossus. I'll enjoy the character because it's the character. Like I really do want to build with Colossus. So actually, I think it was just more fun with Shadowcat. Colossus, is more my play style. But anyways, and it could have just been the scenario too. There's a lot of that. Like Colossus with Sabretooth, because you can't really take advantage of his ability of having multiple toughnesses because Sabretooth, because you're always constantly having to defend. So you can't really, it's just weird. Whereas before with Colossus, you wouldn't defend if it wasn't for protecting the center because you're cool with just the toughness going off. So I don't know. Anyways, yep, that was fun. I enjoyed it. I hope you hope this isn't too long. We'll see once I edit it down and cut out a bunch of stuff. But as far as like times when I was thinking and whatnot, so when you see edits, that's pretty much what it was. It was me taking too long thinking or trying to figure out the best way to go about stuff, or I may even have tried to throw stuff in there just so I could teach something, even though it would have been more efficient for me to do something else. But we'll go through the edit, see if I messed up anything. Other than that, thank you for watching and have a great day.